July 22nd, as part of the business of that meeting to consider the complaint. I was not at that meeting because I was recovering from COVID at that time. But I did have an opportunity to review in full the meeting, which is posted on the county website. In fact, I looked at it a couple of times. Also had the opportunity to, of course, see the complaint that had been filed and to review the statutes that were cited in the meeting. I've taken the liberty, it's my understanding that the board decided at the conclusion of that meeting that today we would look at findings to be by the board. So I took the liberty on my own, these are just my own proposed findings that I have prepared, and I'm glad to give those again to members of the board. I did send those out so that they have those and could come prepared with any comments that they may have. I do have some additional copies here if people from the public want to see my proposed findings. Again, these are just my proposed findings. And what I'd like to do would be, I would ask that the other members, if they have comments, or if they have additions, or if they have modifications that they'd like to make to the findings, or if they have their own findings, that this is an opportunity for the board to weigh in at this time. So I don't know if any member is prepared to make any comments or wants to say anything. Let's allow the members of the board first to take a look at the findings.
I do have a comment.
Okay, yes.
I believe that we have an obligation to protect the integrity of this board, and that a more thorough look into the facts is required as the complaint involves the chairman of this county election board. Therefore, it is my opinion, the best way to proceed would be to forward this matter to an appropriate investigative body. And then I have some additional things regarding policy for the public to be able to view the tallying of votes.
Okay, do you have a suggestion of what that investigative body would be?
I just have some thoughts on that. It could be that there would be a review board appointed to take a look. It could be that the county commissioners could be involved in this. I'm not sure what's allowed by law on that. I believe we have an option for a civil investigation through the Attorney General, and that we have also the option of sending it to the prosecutor.
Yes.
I think
They've had 2 weeks to investigate this.
To me, the
They should
appropriate
know.
body would be the state elections division. They oversee, and then they could either send it back with a recommendation or, I mean, they are the authority that oversees, 1, the statutes, and 2, all election processes in the state of Indiana.
I guess the question I have on that is the state election board, I mean, are they willing to do that? Is that something
Well,
that they are?
They can
think they
tell
have a
us that
choice.
they're not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, my thought on this was that as to the findings that I tendered and any additional findings that we might make as a board, I'm fully prepared to deliver a copy of that to the prosecuting attorney's office. That was my thought, because I mean, in terms of what he feels, or the prosecuting attorney feels is an appropriate thing to do, I have no idea. That's within his bailiwick. And I assume that if you know, there's a decision made, further investigation is needed by his office, that's up to him to decide. So I guess in terms of, I guess the question I have is, I take it, are the members not comfortable with the findings that I prepared? And that's fine if you're not. I mean, you know, I'm just one member, and that my idea was today to have further discussion about these and whether they should be modified, changed, thrown out.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I have 2 sets in front of me. One is a red line through section 4. Okay, that's yours. So it should say proposed. Okay.
Yeah, these are proposed findings.
All right.
So your thought then Ms. Smith, was that paragraph number 4 about the inadvertent failure should be struck. You're thinking on it being what? That we just aren't in a position to judge that? Or-
Exactly. We are the board. This complaint is to the chairman of this board. We do have a proxy for him. I understand that. Is it in the best interest of this board in hopes to always protect the integrity of how we would
They should
act,
be voting today.
to send it to a different investigative body?
Well, I don't have a problem with striking number 4. I mean, I did that on my own based upon my sort of observations that evening. It was a hectic situation. There was a lot going on. But if the consensus of this board, I mean, I really feel we have a duty as a board to make some sort of finding on this.
Correct.
And then refer it to the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor knows what to do with this, one way or the other. So that's really the course of action I would.
We gotta trust the prosecutor.
I don't have a problem with striking 4. That was sort of my own, subjective type of a observation of what was going on that evening. Is there any other?
Let me just ask one. So we have some examples from Hamilton, Hancock, Grant, and Henry County of how they handle their tabulation. And did it strike you that any of them are not really following the statute?
Not following the statute. I believe they all are, no different than us. They haven't had the public come and want to participate. That has been the general consensus. That's what I've been able to determine. And I have even more counties that have since just this morning sent in the answers to the questions that we asked. What's your process on election night? It's the same thing. We have a place for them. If anybody's ever interested, we haven't had anybody be interested. We have a policy in place. I have a copy of that for each of you. It is just instructions. It hasn't been adopted by record. I don't know. I know it hasn't in my administration, but there is one already in place.
For access by the public?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I have not seen that. I would like to see that.
It's the observer badge, and
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about. The process is there is a 10-minute limit with an observer badge. It is age appropriate. This is, we've gone back through the records to see. I'm not finding an ordinance in any other administration, only an instruction. It goes back to Kathy Stoops. That's how far back and has been used as the process since then. I would have to presume, and I can only presume, that if we had more than one person wanting to see, wanting to view, then we would have made whatever appropriate decision at that time, the same way with a child being here. We have to have some sense of order. That's our job. So, that little piece, I don't see where, Tim, you had that in your
No, I did not.
suggestions.
And actually, these suggestions are what the policy should be. I submitted those with the idea that we would do exactly what we're doing now, which is, well, let's look at these. I was absolutely pretty certain there would be further refinements to this needed. And I think that's what we should do. I mean, for example, when you say, well, the public should be given a 10-minute limit, I'm not sure why we need that. I mean, it's my
Agreed.
understanding, please, no comments right now from the public, but it's my understanding that in the past, I don't know how many people have shown up. I think in the 2023 election, one person showed up. So why would we limit that one person? If the one person wants to be there throughout the canvassing, and we need to probably get a better feel for exactly what is the canvassing. When does it begin? When does it end? What is it that the public is to actually watch? I think that's another issue we should deal with. Now, I had in my suggestions that there could be a limitation as to the number of people from the public. Because, yeah, we've only had one person show up in the 2023 election, but what if you had, 70 people show up? What are you gonna do at that point in time? And so I think it's reasonable for the election board to have a limit of what is reasonable in terms of the number of people who are allowed, and badges be handed out on pretty much a first come, first served basis. And, whether that number is 12 or if it's 20 or whatever it is, it's a sufficient number that the public is assured that there was a public process here. And there was a sufficient number of members of the public who could observe. So that's sort of my thinking of this as to what the policy should be. The other thing that I think needs to happen, and I didn't put it into my suggestions here, is there needs to be clear communication between the election board and the security that's up front. Because I think, there was a breakdown of communication here, and, there again, I don't feel I'm in a position to ascribe motives to any person that was involved in this particular situation. But obviously, if we have a policy, and that policy is that if a member of the public shows up and they want to observe, they're going to be allowed to do that, then the security guard needs to know that. Oh, you're here, you're a member of the public, you'd like to observe what's going on? Okay, well, next step is I call the clerk's office or somebody. We have a process clearly in place. We have a member of the public here. Please come down and issue this person a badge, one of the badges that you're talking about. Another thing I don't have in the policy, but I think you mentioned, Ms. Austin, in the prior meeting, was I do think that we have an obligation to make sure we know who's here in this building in the evening. So if a member of public shows up and they want to observe, I think they should be prepared to show us their identification and to sign in, so that we know. And we just can't have a lot of people running around here on election night. It is hectic. It is busy. There's a lot going on, and it needs to go on in a orderly and a correct fashion. So we can't just have a lot of people here. Well, who's this person? What are they doing here? So there needs to be a process for this to be carried out. It needs to be done in an orderly fashion. Okay. Are there other comments from the board members? Let's hear, are there members of the public that would like to be heard at this time? If so, please come forward. I know we allowed the public to speak at the meeting on the 22nd. So we've heard all that testimony. That's been considered by the board. If you have a comment about what we're proposing to do here today, now's the time to hear it. Sir, please state your name.
Yes, sir. My name is Larry Savage. I'm a newly elected precinct committeeman. I think it's the board's duty to make sure civil rights of our voters are protected. We've seen election boards here recently where they've let folks that fill out paperwork the wrong way go through. We've let voting places in African-American neighborhoods were put in jeopardy this year. We saw him intimidate Miss Rebecca Crooms, which I'm sure has put this election board back 60 or 70 years because she probably can remember times in her life to where she didn't get a chance to have a fair election. We just want it to be fair, firm, and consistent. We want to know what the rules are, because when Mr. Jozwiak did go and ask for somebody from the election board to come down, Mr. Willis stomped down with 2 deputies and was ready to force him physically out of the building. That can't happen. Everything has to be transparent to the public. We are America. We deserve better. We have got to fight for our people. That seems like it's not happening anymore. And all we are asking you here today as the board to do is, did Mr. Jozwiak, was he forced to leave the building? And that's it. That's all we want to have you guys really vote on, and then let it go out to the prosecutor and let the prosecutor handle it from here. Thank you so much.
Rebecca Crooms Anderson. I just have one thing to say, and that is, this was your day to shine, the board. to show Madison County how competent you are, how well you know your job, and how committed you are to the voters of Madison County. And you have clearly failed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nicole Skylar Kapuscinski. I'm a disgruntled Republican combat veteran. I served in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2008, and I've been disowned by the Republican Party for the past couple of years. I'm probably blocked by almost every, about 5 Republicans in office because they don't like to be critiqued. And I have had personal run-ins with Russ Willis. I've been trying to file some election complaints for the past 2 years. I've been lied to on the phone about a hearing and a determination letter. I still haven't received one. So I'm getting ready to file like 4 more complaints. And I have a complaint about the complaint process. And it shouldn't be this hard for anybody to be able to file something with the state or with the county.
I know that's right.
And then I would also like to be on a suggestion board on how to make that stuff go better, because I've picked through the footage. I piggybacked off of everybody's footage. I've match cutted it together to show a story of like what happened with Jozwiak, things Russ have said.
He has all the receipts, is what he's saying.
Please don't speak up. If you want to speak, come to the podium, do this in an orderly fashion. Thank you very much.
So my concern was safety. On the primary day, as a combat veteran who was trained to protect politicians and the public, I think there could be somebody could do a better job at when they come in. I couldn't tell the difference between anybody, the different people walking in and out. I knew who some of them were, but as far as like the badges, they should be given a badge so that when they walk in, that the security guards know who they're dealing with, instead of some random person like a sovereign citizen who is anti-government and likes to attack me personally. We have one locally. They could go purchase those boxes and walk them in, and the security guards wouldn't know no different. You wouldn't know who they were until they got to the table where all the main stuff is. So anyway, that's all I got to
I'm
say.
sorry, I missed your name. What was your name?
Nicole Kapuscinski. And my complaints will be filed within the next week. And it's on a local politician who has harassed me for several years. And then the obstruction of justice and interference of reporting a crime. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Agree with your facial expression at the end, but. Thank you, Nicole.
Cheryl McKinney, Anderson, Indiana. First, thank you guys for taking this seriously. But my question would be, why did Rob have to file a complaint? You guys knew what happened. It was all over social media, and you guys chose to wait until complaints were filed. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
Absolutely.
There should be no viewing limit on the time limit. You're not told that you only have 10 minutes somewhere. That's no time at all to watch the process. I do appreciate Mr. Lannon's suggestion, as long as we don't have an overabundance of people. I'm sure that there's fire codes on how many can be in each room, that we just abide by those and then people can rotate in and out. That seems fair. Not sure why there needs to be an age limit. We want our teens to get involved. We want our young kids to get involved in the voting process. Anderson, Madison County has some of the worst voting records as far as participation. We need to be encouraging that. And so to tell a child who was certainly well behaved that he couldn't come in either, I don't care if he was 4. He wasn't running around. His father had him very well under control. In finding 4, Mr. Lannon, you talk about that you don't see that there was intentional malice. However, one could very well argue that fact, because if you go back and you view when Mrs. Crooms was trying to watch the process, when they were testing everything, and she said to Russ, voters are allowed. We're allowed to watch this process. Indiana code says so. And he says, no, it doesn't. And she said, what code? And his response, the Russ Willis code or statute. Thank you.
Gross.
That's awful. So when you say there was no malice,
he has a proven record that there is malice. And as far as badges and people signing in after hours, I absolutely agree, for everybody's safety. But that means the poll workers should be signing in as well. They should have a badge that says that they're an employee. They were just all walking in. We've all seen the video. The same video I'm sure all of you have watched where,
If they had been previously identified by the election board.
but they were coming in the door. If you're saying that you need to know who's in the building, you need to know when they come in the building. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a whole security.
Again, thank you guys. I'm glad you're taking it seriously. I do hope, personally, I hope you send this to the prosecutor's office because this was a complete violation of Indiana code. Thank you.
Catherine Callahan, LaPel, Indiana. I'm a bit concerned about the age limit. That's a violation of the 14th Amendment. Two of you are lawmakers. You know what the amendments are. There should be no age restriction. There's nowhere it stated that. If we're going to go to age restriction, are we going to go that African-American people can't come in, women can't come in? I don't know where it stops, but there should not be an age limit. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to sit up here and say that, then this infant should not be in this meeting. And here's the thing.
It's true.
I took my children everywhere with me. We invest in our children so that our children can invest in us in the future. I think it's an amazing thing that we have a child here. That's who we want to do. So I'm not sure where the age limit plays any role in any of this.
I'm not too concerned about the age limit. I
We
guess
should be.
you might have a situation
Because we
where
are. That's
whole
what
class show up,
Well,
which, we'd have to deal with that.
you know, I truly understand that, but you know,
But I'm
when is it too
generally not
young?
hung up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my other thing is I'm concerned at who actually is running the show on election night. Is Russ Willis running the show or is the elected clerk running the show? Because why didn't Linda come to the door and answer for Mr. Jozwiak? Who elected Russ Willis to run that door? We, the people, elected Linda Smith. We, the people, have not elected Russ to do anything. So I'm very concerned over this hierarchy here of what we've got going on. I don't think Mr. Graham's going to go in and run a courtroom when there's a judge in place. So I'm a little confused by it. I'm not confused, but clearly we know what goes on in Madison County.
Do you want me to answer that for
Oh,
you?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I was not notified that Mr. Jozwiak was at the door.
So Russ Willis was acting not on your behalf, on his own, taking charge of election night.
All I am telling you, you asked the question, was the clerk notified? I was not notified.
Okay, so if you were never notified and it's your show to be running, you probably should be the first person who's got a huge problem with this, because when someone like that goes and is running the door when it's your show, that means you've got no control. Now we don't even know if voting and tabulation is going on correct, because you don't even know who's running your front door.
I knew that the sheriff was stationed there, ma'am.
No.
Thank you.
It's his
I don't know that you can say that because you didn't know
Did
that
you not
Russ was
see-
running the door.
Did you not see on the footage where the sheriff's deputy came and got me when there were two members of the media that came? Because they were there.
Well, why didn't
And I
they come and
took their-
get you
I
with
don't know.
Russ?
I don't know the answer to that, and I'm sorry.
So let me ask you this, when the two people in the media were there, was Russ at the door then?
I don't know where Russ was.
Exactly, so that's probably why they came and got you, because Russ wasn't at the door. So somewhere along the line, people do not understand who's in charge. That's a huge problem. I'm not even sure from your answers that you know you're in charge. That's a huge problem. You are in charge of this, Linda. The people have voted you into a position to do the right thing, and to blame the sheriff.
Yes.
I didn't blame the sheriff.
Yes, is appalling.
All right, please,
I did
please.
not blame the
Please,
sheriff.
You are the elected
Catherine,
official.
can you-
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir.
Please do not make comments.
I'm sorry. This is a very heated situation.
I know,
Very
but
fraudulent.
please, we're
I will,
trying to
you're
keep
right.
it not as heated.
Thank you, you're right.
as
Thank you.
that, all right?
Thank you. I said thank you and you're right.
Okay.
Our job when we lead people, no matter what position that we're in,
unfortunately, if we take that title and we take that responsibility, we have to know what's going on in all the areas that we're over. If we don't, then we have failed the people. So that's the thing. I guess you should inform the sheriffs that only you are allowed to give direction at that door, that people are working under your name should not be doing that, that you're in charge.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Hi, I'm Cindy from Anderson. And I think it's obvious we have a lot of people here today that are interested in election integrity, myself included. And again, I said last week, thank you to Mr. Jozwiak. He stands on a hero type platform to me because he has talked about election integrity, which is a hot topic. And I'm here to say that, yes, we are dealing with this at a local level, but we're also dealing with this at a national level. And you may or may not follow the national news in regard to election integrity. So I would like the public to look into Lisa Peters from Mesa County, Colorado, who stands to be.
I'm sorry, we
Okay.
don't have any jurisdiction over what's going on.
Okay, so let me redirect this, okay? I'll redirect this. So Linda asked me 2 weeks ago, do I trust or don't I trust the election board and or the machines? I don't remember the exact question. I have to go back. I asked Mr. Beeman, is a gun unsafe? Or is a human who pulls the trigger unsafe? It's the human behind the trigger who's unsafe. And the analogy was the machines themselves can be very safe, but who has access to those machines? What humans have access to those machines? That can be a foreign entity, it can be a domestic entity, it can be Linda, because I know she has to have codes, passwords, and keys to those machines, or it can be a representative from those machines that come in and do software updates, or an outside entity that comes in and does software updates. So I just want to present to the public that's here. I'm going to present to you guys. Those are the things that we need to look at. All hands aren't on Russ Willis saying he controlled or manipulated the whole, here we are talking about Jozwiak and his entering of the building. I know that. But I'm bumping it up just a little bit further for public awareness. No, I don't trust the machines because the humans I'm not pointing at you, Linda, to say you're the ones that's getting in there and doing any kind of manipulation. We need to look at absentee ballots. And I had the question, when was the last time the voter rolls? That's a question I have. When was the last time the voter rolls were cleaned up?
Can I answer that one?
Sure.
Who is in charge of the voter rolls? Attorney Richardson or Graham? Who's in charge of that? Mhm. That would be the voter registration department.
Who's in charge of voter registration?
Exactly. That is not my responsibility. Thank you. So who appoints the individuals in the voter registration office? Do you know the answer to that?
No, that's why I'm here, and that's why the public's here. We're trying to find answers.
It's your 2 county chairmen.
And who is that, please?
The 2 county chairmen, that would be Terry Austin for the Democrat Party and Russ Willis for the Republican Party.
Russ Willis's daughter is in there.
I am not here to point a finger at you, Miss Linda, at all. I'm asking questions that maybe some of the people in the audience aren't brave enough to ask. So, and we need answers to this. I'm on a learning curve too. Been on a learning curve for 4 years. I know there was problems with election integrity in 2020 and 2022 here locally. And again, I point out Devin Norwick and his run and some others, who ran. I would love to go back and check absentee ballots and the voter rolls. So I don't know. That's why I was asking you. Thank you for that on the voter roll. Who's responsible? Because I thought the buck stopped with you on
I
that.
know you did.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments about what we're here for today on, which was the issue of Mr. Jozwiak?
I'm just glad he's here. I hope you guys do the right thing. All 3 of you vote the right way. If there's an investigation, I would like to see some unbiased, unpartisan people on that investigative team, not the commissioners. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mrs. Austin, any comment? All right, Mr. Jozwiak.
Thank you.
Tim,
State
appreciate
your
it.
name.
Rob Jozwiak, Rob. Anyways, I just want to thank the public for coming out today. I mean, I appreciate everybody speaking, and it means a lot because election integrity is the most important thing if we're going to change the county. And I think we need to move in a better direction, and I think we're going backwards. And so I think that's what everybody's concerned about. I just want to say, Russ Willis said he is not in violation of any IC code, and he clearly is. I mean, he denied me access to view the tabulation. I know there's been some issues raised with me and bringing my son that evening. You know, he wanted to see what was going on too, but Russ never said anything about my son. I just want that to be on the record. He never said anything about my son. And, you know, my wife was out in the car if it would have been an issue. My office is a block and a half down the street. There was no issues. I was denied access. And where in the IC code, you know, we've talked about, I know it's brought up, but there's nothing that restricts time, number of people, age. There's nothing in the IC code. And that's what we're really voting on. You know, the Russ was even in violation of the policy that's being followed because the policy allows me to come in and I was denied access. So that's really all I have to say. I appreciate everybody's professionalism today. I think everybody has been really civil, and I trust in the board's decision today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate all the comments that were made. Mrs. Oxford, did you have a comment?
And I just want to reiterate what I said in the last meeting. Clearly, the public has a stake and an interest in our election processes. And it's hard to remember all the things that have been spoken about or thrown out as ideas. And so I want to acknowledge that Mr. Jozwiak actually submitted some suggestions in writing. And I would encourage others to do that because one, it helps create a record. Two, we have something in front of us to go on rather than just trying to remember what someone said in a hearing. And to me, if any of you as a member of the public have some suggestions, please submit them to the County Election Board. And then the County Election Board will review those against the statutes and the approved processes and see where there's always room for improvement, always room for improvement.
Any other comments about what we're doing here today this morning?
Can we leave with these version 1 and version 2 so we know?
Yeah, and actually, I have no problem. I know that, Ms. Smith, you suggested that paragraph 4, my proposed findings should be taken out of that, and I actually am fine with that. Do you have a problem with that? So if we remove
I can support
paragraph
that.
4, okay, so by consensus of the board, we're just going to remove that. What about the remainder of these? Now, I know that the policy that I put together is rudimentary and that there should be, you know, further work on that, and it should be maybe a work in progress, if you want to call it that. Mr. Jozwiak did submit his comment, which I think was get a larger room, right? So that we could, you know, maybe have more members of the public. So that calls for logistics to be considered beyond, you know, my immediate knowledge as to where or if that's a possibility. But you've asked for maybe other members of the public to submit their suggestions, and that's fine. You know, we do want to get this in place in plenty of time, obviously, for the upcoming election. So I would say that if members of the public do want to submit some additional comments, I'd like to get those pretty soon, like
I would
within a
say
week or, yeah,
within 10 days.
something like that. But, you know, the public's welcome to do that, and we'll continue to work with this.
I
Yes.
do want to make one statement just to clarify and for the public's information. Any election worker that is positioned at a poll has a name tag and a badge that states their position. Inspectors have badges, clerks have badges, and so if it is a concern, and I can't remember who stated this, another reason to write these things down, that people should be identified, they are identified. And they're issued with their credentials and their packet of information. So I just wanted people to know that.
Thank you, Terry. I thought that as well and wanted to mention that, so I'm glad you remembered that.
Okay, what's the prerogative of the board in terms of, if we take paragraph 4 out of these findings, do you want to not take a formal vote on them today, or do you want to go ahead and at least have something that we can move on with?
I also want to recognize, Mr. Chairman, that we've struck, the current policy allows only for those who are voter age to participate as an observer under other section 5, subsection D. Other, I think we just strike that whole thing
From the current policy.
from the current policy.
So the public will be admitted without consideration of the age of the person.
Here's something people are gonna have to think about though. Makes me think about airlines and flying. Children don't have IDs, many of them, 3 and 4-year-olds. So maybe somebody has a great idea for that.
My suggestion would be anyone who has a driver's license, valid driver's license, that might be the language we would need to insert there. I mean, how
No.
old can they be to get a state ID? I
No.
would presume 16, 15.
No, this is not okay.
Or it could be not just a driver's license, but a state issued ID.
As
or
long as they're,
government
So
issued
the
ID.
only other thing to think about is if we have to put a limit on the number of people that can attend, and we have those who are not of voter age or of some age, if a person wants to bring their 6 kids in, it's gonna take up some of those badges, right? So it's something to
Catherine
think about.
Callahan's lapel. As long as they're accompanied by an adult, that is all that should matter, as long as they have a valid driver's license. The sheriff has to do something if a minor is in the car and they have no identification. The adult is vouching for them. So you would have to tell the sheriff nobody can be running around in the United States if they don't have a valid ID. An adult vouches, I'm not gonna leave my kid at home, and then the sheriff comes to my home and says, you left a minor at home. I couldn't take him up to the courthouse to watch my constitutional right to watch voting. If they have a valid ID and they're with an adult, that should be sufficient.
Okay. We can consider that as well.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the findings of the documents submitted by the clerk with the mentioned modifications, striking section 4 and striking section 5D
Okay, as to
For
the age.
as to the age.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, we have had it properly motion made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, these findings as modified have been adopted by the board. As I've indicated, I will be providing a copy to the Madison County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. All right, is there any other business on the agenda to come before the election board now?
Let me just offer one comment in closing. I think all of this has to do with improving the training process, quite honestly. Not just for the election workers themselves, but for any of the support staff that have a role in either admitting people into the building. There are some things I think we could do to make this streamline a little easier and run a little smoother. But I think that we need to take a look at everything from top to bottom, figure out where we can make some improvements. We've already identified some.
I'm sorry, we've closed the public comment. You've been
They
up there
just want,
twice. You've been up
they
there
just
twice.
want to know, did you vote if you did or not? They don't understand that's what they don't understand. That's all I'm asking. They want to clear, did you guys vote or did you not vote? That's what they're asking.
Did we vote on the findings? That
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
motion.
That's what they don't understand. Did a vote take place? That's all I'm asking.
So where's it go from here is what we're asking.
When,
Let's go from there. Well, this is the action of the election board. This is what we've done today. This is our official action. I've indicated I will make sure a copy of our findings is delivered to the prosecuting attorney's office. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, sir.
I guess they voted. I'm still confused as well. I'm very confused if they voted.
Well, it would have helped.
Thank you.